Most widows weep. They wear black and light candles in silent prayer. But I am not most widows. When the letter arrived saying my husband was killed by a German bullet near Kiev, something inside me didn't break. It burned. I didn't want pity. I wanted blood. So I sold everything I owned, my house, my clothes, my jewels, and I bought a T-34 tank. I named her Fighting Girlfriend. Now, staring through the periscope at the Nazis who destroyed my happiness, I am about to introduce them to the true weight of my grief. Before the war, I was just Mariya. I was a proud Soviet woman, born into a peasant family in Crimea, but I had clawed my way into a good life. My husband, Ilya, was an army officer, a commissar. He was my universe. We were stationed in Bessarabia, and while other wives spent their days gossiping, I spent mine learning. I learned to drive a truck, I learned to shoot a machine gun, and I learned first aid. Ilya used to laugh, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and say, "Mariya, you are more soldier than wife." He didn't know how right he was. Then came June 1941. The fascists rolled across our border like a black plague. Ilya was sent to the front immediately. I was evacuated to Tomsk, deep in Siberia. For 2 agonized years, I worked in a cannery, my hands stained with fruit juice that looked too much like blood, waiting for letters that became fewer and fewer. Then, the final letter came. Killed in action near Kiev. The pain was physical. It felt like my chest had been carved out with a rusty knife. I spent days staring at the wall, unable to breathe. But as the days turned into weeks, the tears dried up. In their place, a cold, hard hatred formed. I saw women crying in the streets, children starving, the motherland bleeding. I realized that weeping would not bring Ilya back. Only victory would avenge him. And victory required steel. I looked around my small house, my silverware, my embroidered linens, my wedding ring. I saw them not as memories, but as ammunition. I went to the black market and the bazaars. I sold everything. Every single thing I owned. I raised 50,000 rubles. It was a fortune. I walked into the bank and deposited the entire sum for the State Defense Fund. But I attached a telegram addressed personally to Comrade Stalin in the Kremlin. I didn't ask for permission, I stated my terms. I wrote, "My husband was killed defending the motherland. I want revenge. I have purchased a tank with my own money. I name it Fighting Girlfriend, and I demand to be its driver." The local commanders thought I was insane. A 38-year-old widow wanting to drive a T-34? They laughed. But Stalin didn't laugh. He saw the fire in my words. He said yes. I was sent to the Omsk tank school. The young boys there, barely 18, stared at me. They whispered and called me Mother. But when I climbed into the driver's seat, greased up to my elbows, and roared that 500 horsepower engine to life, the whispering stopped. I wasn't a mother anymore. I was a mechanic of death, and I was finally going to the front. October 1943. We were deployed to the Western Front, near Smolensk. The air smelled of wet earth and diesel. When my tank, Fighting Girlfriend, Boyvaya Podruga painted in white letters on the turret, rolled into the camp of the 26th Guards Tank Brigade, the silence was deafening. The other tankers, rough men with grease under their fingernails and 1,000-yard stares, looked at me with suspicion. They whispered that I was a propaganda stunt, a widow playing soldier for the cameras. They said I wouldn't last 5 minutes when the shells started flying. I didn't say a word. I just checked my engine. I tightened the bolts. I waited. On October 21st, the order came. Break the German line. I squeezed into the driver's hatch. The T-34 is not a comfortable machine. It is a beast of iron and noise. The engine roared behind me, vibrating through my spine. I shifted the heavy gears, and Fighting Girlfriend surged forward. We weren't a stunt anymore. We were a weapon. The battlefield was a chaotic storm of mud and fire. Shells exploded all around us, shaking the ground like an earthquake. I drove with a cold, focused fury. I maneuvered the tank through ravines and over trenches, giving my gunner the perfect angles. We crushed machine gun nests beneath our tracks. We blasted artillery positions into silence. I felt Ilya with me in that cramped, hot steel box. Every time the gun fired, I felt his rage. Then a deafening clang rang out. The tank shuddered and spun to a halt. A German shell had smashed our tracks. We were sitting ducks in the middle of a kill zone. The commander shouted, "We're immobile! Bail out!" But I refused to abandon her. I grabbed a heavy crowbar and a spare track link and threw open the hatch. Bullets pinged off the hull like angry hornets. I jumped into the mud, exposing myself to the enemy fire. I didn't feel fear. I only felt the need to get moving. My crewmates, seeing my madness, jumped out to cover me. With artillery raining down around us, I hammered the track pin back into place. My hands bled. My uniform was soaked in oil, but I fixed it. We scrambled back inside, and I roared the engine to life. We rejoined the attack, pushing the Germans back. When we returned to base that night, covered in soot and glory, no one looked at me with suspicion anymore. The commander shook my hand. I wasn't just a woman or a widow. I was a tank driver. I had been baptized in fire, and I had emerged unbroken. But the war was far from over, and the winter was coming. Winter in Russia is an enemy all on its own, a white death that doesn't care which uniform you wear. The steel of fighting girlfriend became so cold it would tear the skin off your fingers if you weren't careful. Inside, it was an icebox smelling of diesel fumes and cordite. We slept huddled together for warmth, my crew, these boys who had once laughed at me, now treating me like a sister. We didn't talk about the past. We only talked about the next target, the next kilometer of frozen ground we had to take back. By January 1944, we were pushing toward Vitebsk. The Germans were dug in deep, desperate, knowing that if Vitebsk fell, the road to the west was open. The snow was waist-deep, hiding mines and anti-tank guns. Driving the T-34 in that terrain was brutally hard physical labor. You had to fight the levers with every ounce of strength you had. My shoulders ached constantly, a dull fire that never went away, but I never let up on the throttle. I felt Ilya urging me on. Faster, Mariya. Push harder. On January 17th, near the village of Krinky, we hit the main German defense line. The artillery barrage was ferocious. The white snow turned black with explosions. We were in the lead, our gun roaring, taking out machine gun nests and crushing trenches beneath our treads. We were invincible. And then, that familiar, sickening jolt. A high explosive shell struck our starboard side. The tank shuddered violently and ground to a halt. I tried the levers. Nothing. The track was severed. We were a sitting duck in a killing field. My commander swore. "Mariya, we're stuck. We have to wait for cover." But I couldn't wait. Waiting meant dying. I had fixed her under fire before. I would do it again. I grabbed my heavy repair tools and popped the driver's hatch. The freezing air hit my sweat-soaked face, instantly followed by the whistle of bullets. I jumped down into the deep snow, sinking to my knees. I crawled to the damaged track, my breath freezing in thick clouds before me. I was hammering at the track pin, desperate to connect the links. Shells were landing closer, throwing up geysers of frozen earth. I was so focused on the metal, on the mechanics of saving my tank, that I never heard the one that got me. I just felt the world explode behind me. A searing, blinding heat ripped through my head. The hammer fell from my hands into the snow. The gray sky spun dizzily above me, and then darkness. They carried me off the field on a stretcher, the snow stained red beneath my head. I drifted in and out of the darkness for 2 months in a field hospital near Kiev, the very place my Ilya had died. It was a strange, feverish time. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move, but I could hear. I heard the doctors whispering about the shrapnel lodged in my brain. I heard the nurses crying, but mostly, I heard the rumble of engines in my dreams. I held on as long as I could. I wanted to see the victory, I wanted to drive Fighting Girlfriend through the gates of Berlin. But on March 15, 1944, my engine finally stopped. I died without ever seeing the end of the war. But my story didn't end in that hospital bed. When my crew, my boys, heard that I was gone, they didn't despair. They got angry. They painted Fighting Girlfriend on the turret of a new tank, and then another. The name Bovaya Podruga became a legend. It wasn't just a machine anymore. It was a promise. That tank, bearing the spirit of a grieving widow, fought all the way to the Baltic Sea. It crushed the Nazi fortifications at Königsberg. It rolled over the ruins of the Reich, carrying my vengeance to the very end. 5 months after my death, the Kremlin issued a decree. I was posthumously awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor our nation could give. I was the first female tank driver to ever receive it. Today, there is a monument to me in Tomsk. Children leave flowers there. They learn about the woman who sold her life to buy a weapon. But I don't want to be remembered as a hero of war. I want to be remembered as a wife who loved her husband so much that she couldn't live in a world that had taken him. I bought a tank not because I loved killing, but because I wanted to kill the war itself. I wanted to stop the monster that was eating our world. So, when you look at the history books and see the black and white photos of men in steel beasts, look closer. Look for the name painted in white script. Look for the Fighting Girlfriend. And remember that sometimes the strongest armor isn't made of steel. It's made of a broken heart that refuses to stop beating.